Okay.
إدريس.
ايوه
إدريس مايك مالك مسكر إدريس.
ايوه معاك. جو ahead مرتضى.
All right, salam alaikum everyone, and welcome back to another online workshop brought to you by the Oman Society for Human Resource Management, Oshrm. My name is Murtadha Lawati, and I am delighted to be able to introduce to you someone that I met at the last Oshrm conference. And just to let you guys know a little bit, you're going to enjoy this and you're going to learn from it. So Victor Antonio has had an impressive career in business, where he has made remarkable sales and management accomplishments. He's been acknowledged as an impressive speaker in the sales and motivational field, and he knows how to inspire audiences and ensure that they take away useful lessons which can be employed straight away. We're in an era right now where the topic that he's going to be speaking about is extremely important. No touch selling. So social distancing, staying away, but still getting your numbers and making those sales. So just a little bit of housekeeping before I give the mic and the screen over to Victor. Please send us your questions. What we're going to do is we're going to collate all the questions, and then at the end of Victor's workshop, he will answer as many of them as he can. We wish you the best of luck, and thank you, Victor. Thank you from Oshrm and from the people here in Oman for being with us and sharing your knowledge and giving us this chance to learn of how to sell without touching.
Great. Thank you very much, Murtadha. Good afternoon, good afternoon, everybody. It's good morning here from the United States. I'm going to jump right into the presentation. I'm just going to get into the content, and towards the end, you guys can ask me questions. And so let me pull up the presentation right here. And I will remind myself, Manal has reminded me to slow down how fast I talk, so I will do my best, okay? Now, everybody will receive a copy of the presentation. I'll send that to Manal and Murtadha, so everybody will get a copy of this presentation. So, really just listen, and later on, if you want to take notes, that's fine. All right, here we go. You ready? All right, here we go. So here's the agenda. We're going to talk a little bit about creating a sales flow, which is really how do you combine technology and your sales process. We're also going to talk about using simple technology, what we call a technology stack, to implement in this era of no-touch selling, distance selling. We're going to talk about setting up your virtual office, okay? Simple things you can do to look professional. We're going to talk about video presentation flow, like when now we're talking through video, so we have to change a couple of things. And last but not least, I'm going to teach you about reading people and then closing. Reading people, because now we have to be more aware of the other person on the other side through this medium of video. So let's begin with this. I decided to categorize, right now, you know what's happening throughout the world, especially here in the United States. And I've gone ahead and categorized, there's three types of survival modes, three types of buyers out there now, three types of buyers. The first category, I think these are what I call people in the fight mode. These are people who are still planning because they know that sooner or later, this is all going to change and we're going to go back to a new normal, or as I like to call it, the new next. And so these are people, companies who are still planning, okay? They're still looking forward because they're growing. Then there's people in the flight mode. These are people who are afraid. They're freaking out, right? They're just like, these are people who are downsizing, reducing all types of expenses, and they're retreating. They're not planning for the future. They're pretty much going backwards. But I think there's a third group. We typically talk about fight or flight, right? Fight, let's keep going. Flight, run away. But then there's a third group. It's the freeze mode. Now, these are the people who are not downsizing. They're not really planning. They're just kind of holding still. They're holding their money. They're holding still. So the first thing I want you to begin to think about is when you're talking to your customers, your potential customers, we're going to talk about reaching out to them. What mode are they in? Are they in the fight mode? Let's keep going. Are they in the fright mode? In other words, flight mode, they're scared. Or are they in the hold mode, which is the freeze mode? And so begin to think about, now, before I go any further, as we get into this topic of no-touch selling, I'd like you to read the subtitle, Using Simple Technology to Sell at a Social Distance. what I wanted to do is when I created this program, I've been doing no-touch selling for years now. And so, but I've been getting a lot of questions, Victor, how do you sell without being there? Now, given the fact that there are many people on this webinar from different industries, they could be from telecom to healthcare, retail, everything in between. So what I want to do is give you a buffet of options, of ideas. And what I want you to do as you're listening to me, as you're watching me, say, how could I use that? Am I doing that? And really brainstorm as we go through this process. But let's start with the biggest problem we have. One is the economy, right? The crisis going on. But now, how do we approach it? Well, one of the biggest challenges we had is what technology do we use? See, when you look at the sales landscape, this is what it looks like. These are all the tools that are out there that you can use to sell more effectively. Now, whether you're in sales directly or whether you're, let's say, in HR, we're all in sales. Remember, I talked about that at the conference. We're all in sales. So it's how do you position yourself? And these are all the different technologies that we're using. Right now, you know, we're using Microsoft Teams. That's a technology. So what I wanted to do is maybe pick a few technologies, simple technologies that you could use. Look at inside sales. Look at all the options for inside sales. So again, there are a lot of different technologies we can use. The problem is when there's so many options, people just don't know what to do and they don't do anything. Because right now, somebody's watching this thinking, I'm not good with technology. I'm not really good using new tools. Well, I'm going to solve that problem for you. I'm going to give you some ideas, some tools that you can use before we move to the second part of the presentation, which is how do you sell, how do you communicate? So let's look at simple tools that you can use that don't cost a lot of money, but that you can use to sell more effectively. Let's look at the first one, a CRM, a customer relationship management system. Now, if you belong to a big company, you probably use a big system like, let's say, Salesforce, right? And so Pipedrive, what I love about Pipedrive, it is so simple to use, but let me slow down here. If today you're using a CRM, excellent. If today you don't have a CRM, why not? Here in the US, about 60% of companies don't use a CRM. They use spreadsheets or something else. But the thing is, you need a Pipedrive, you need a CRM to collect all your customer information. And again, here you can manage your leads, you can track communications, you can automate follow-up. So leverage this technology. If you decide to use a Pipedrive, this is the one I recommend. I would use the advanced feature in the middle. It's like $24.90, $25 US to use this program. And it's not that hard to use. Here's how simple it is. I just want to give you a quick screenshot. You see on the left where it says plus deal. So every time you have a new customer, you hit click, you plus deal, you get the pop-up window, and you begin to fill out your customer information. It's that simple. Let me sell you on the idea of a CRM if you don't have one. In today's market, your data, your customer data is now an asset. Because of artificial intelligence, data is the new oil. Data is the new oil. So if you're not collecting data on your customers and storing them in a database, you're missing out. Think about it this way. When a company evaluates your company, your data becomes part of the asset. So again, think about using a CRM if you're not using one right now. Now, let me shift over to this tool. This is my favorite tool. Listen carefully. This is the tool that everybody should use. And there's different variations, but I like Loom.com. Loom.com allows you to grab a proposal that you've put together and attach a video to it, and it's so easy to do. Here's a quick demo of what I did. I just reviewed my website using Loom, but just to give you an idea of how this works. You may not hear the audio well, but you'll get the idea.
Now, let's pretend for a moment that you wanted to send your customer, but you also wanted to have this video what's going on the screen. Now, I'm using Loom, and it's really easy to use. You can kind of move, my face all over the place. You can do the same thing as click and click, drag, and drop. And then let's say I wanted to look at the home page. I wanted to talk to you about who is Victor Antonio. As you can see here, who's Victor Antonio? Why hire Victor Antonio to speak at your event? You can play the video.
You can feel it. The difference.
And then you can explain what's going on the website. Here's my background. Here are the places I've spoken at internationally, all the books I've written, my reality show, and so forth and so on. Register for a newsletter. So imagine instead of this being a website, this is a brochure, a product brochure that you can actually tag this video and actually put it on the brochure. Think of a proposal that, again, you have this video face here, but you're also explaining what's going on in the proposal and you can walk them through it. That's the type of interaction and intimacy you want to create with your clients. Simply just click off on this and this will create an automatic link that you'll send to your customers.
Say that one more time.
The video and the presentation are not showing to the audience. If you can send that to Manal by email, she will put it up. Sorry for cutting you off.
So it's not, you're not seeing, hold on a second. So you're not seeing the presentation?
No, I'm just seeing the first page of the presentation. But if you send it over to Manal, she will sort it out in a minute.
All right, so let me see how I can do that. Hold on a second. Let's see if we can do this. Say, let's multitask at the same time. Let me see. Do you have a, Manal, do you have a Macintosh, hopefully?
She should.
Right, okay, so let's see. So Manal, I'll send presentation over, real time. Let me grab it real quick. Bear with me, locking up. So only the first slide is showing, is what you're saying?
Yep, only the first slide. So the movement through the presentation actually wasn't showing up.
Okay, so it's uploading right now. It's a big file. So this might.
It's okay, Murtadha. Now we are fine. We are good to go. The presentation slide is showing on the screen, but you need to bear in mind that it's a little bit slower because of the network, so you cannot keep changing the slides quickly. Take your time, Victor.
Okay.
Thank you.
So you can see the slides.
If you put them up right now, I can't see them right now. So just put them up again and let's see. Share them again.
We can see them right now. We can see them right now.
So let me see. Okay, can you see it right now?
Yeah, we can see.
Yes.
Okay, so right now you should be seeing that right there, Loom. Can you see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. Okay.
Thanks, Victor.
All right, and so what I wanted to show here, and I showed the video already, it's basically, did you see the video at all, Murtadha?
No, nothing at all. Can you repeat it if it's
I'm gonna
possible?
do right. Yep, absolutely. So this tool right here, and I'm glad you stopped me here, Murtadha, because this one is really important. This tool would allow you to record a quick video and attach it to a proposal, a brochure. I'm giving you an example of a website, my own website, and I just attached the video to it. Let's go through it one more time. Murtadha, make sure that you can see it.
Let's pretend for a moment that you wanted to send your customer, but you also wanted to have this video to explain what's going on the screen. Now, I'm using Loom, and it's really easy to use because you can kind of move, my face all over the place. You can do the same thing as click and click, drag, and drop. And then let's say I wanted to look at the home page. I wanted to talk to you about who is Victor Antonio. As you can see, here who's Victor Antonio. Why hire Victor Antonio to speak at your event? You can play the video.
You can feel it. The difference.
And then you can explain what's going on the website. Here's my background. Here are the places I've spoken at internationally, all the books I've written, my reality show, and so forth and so on. Register for a newsletter. So imagine instead of this being a website, this is a brochure, a product brochure that you can actually tag this video and actually put it on the brochure. Think of a proposal that, again, you have this video face here, but you're also explaining what's going on in the proposal and you can walk them through it. That's the type of interaction and intimacy you want to create with your clients. Simply just click off on this and just create a link that you'll send to your customers.
You're going to have to just go through the presentation without the video if possible.
Say that again.
The video is not working. None of us can see it. So I think you have to just go on with the presentation without the video.
Okay, how about, can you see this slide right here?
I can see the Loom slide, but the video just doesn't play.
Okay, but I just clicked to the second slide. Can you see this one? It says, has an arrow on it. Can you see that?
Not yet. It might be a lag from my side, but no, I can't. I'm still at the Loom page.
Right.
Loom
There's Loom. How about this one? Can you see one that says video rule?
No, it's not changing here.
Hmm.
Yeah, try unsharing and sharing again on the new slide. It might just be a lag in the system. Now we're at loom.com with an arrow.
Right,
And
that's
then
where I'm at. And so
yeah.
I wonder, let me just try, I guess that's the only way to share it. So let me just try this. We're going to make this work. Okay, so you can see that, right?
Yes, now I can see Loom.com, author and trainer, a reality TV host.
Okay, so you're up here still. Can
No,
you see?
I'm on the next one. I can see this now. So I think you go this way, it loads faster.
Can you see when I change to this?
Yes, video rule 1.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just not jump into the presentation. I'll just stay within the slideshow. Apparently that works better. Okay, that works better. We're good. All right, not a problem. So with Loom, what you'll be able to do is take a proposal, and then since we can't meet with the customer, typically we just send a proposal. But with Loom, it's so easy to use that you can record a video with your webcam and then simply just hit start recording. You talk about your proposal as you scroll through your proposal, and the video is recorded automatically. And then when you're done, you hit stop, and then you'll get this page right here. And as you can see right here, it gives you a link. So all you have to do is send that link to your customer. Now, here's what's beautiful about Loom is that it'll tell you when the customer actually opened it, if they watched the whole video, and if they shared it. So now you know that somebody's actually looked at your proposal and you can get a notification. But keep in mind that the beauty here also is that instead of just sending a proposal with text, you're sending your beautiful face. And again, part of the connection through video is to them see who you are. So very powerful tool. Now, many people are afraid to use video, and here's what I always tell them. You have to get over yourself. What do I mean by that? You have to not be shy to get on video. I did a workshop where I made a lot of people do videos for me, 1-minute video. And what was interesting is there were 3 people who just didn't want to share the video that they did. They created. And believe it or not, when I reviewed the video, those were some of the best videos. So don't be so critical of yourself. Everybody can look good on video, okay? And we'll talk about that later. Next, here's a website if you're not collecting emails. Now, if you have a CRM, you don't need this. But if you're not using a CRM, this is a website called MailerLite, another tool for sending out emails. Here's what I tell people. If you have a company and you're not collecting emails from your website, the question is, why not? This is the cheapest way to reach out to your customers with a new product introduction. Maybe you want to make an announcement. Again, using email is relatively cheap. The price of this, you can have up to 1,000 people and not pay anything. So there's no excuse for not using this tool. Now, this is one of my favorite tools. Again, if you have a CRM, you won't need this. Calendly is a website that allows you to schedule via the internet a time to meet with the customer. So let's say we want to set up a Zoom call with a client. First, go to calendly.com and register your company or with your name, and then that'll be your link. So for example, for me, it's calendly.com/Victor Antonio. And so what I then do is I send my customer that link. The customer can then pick a time that they want to meet with me. They can pick a time, and as you can see right here, once they pick a time, they can send an email. I can tell the customer, please pick a date, and then we can confirm that date. Okay, very simple to use. Back here, sorry. It's very simple to use, not that hard. What I also like about this application is you can block out time where you can't meet. So this is a nice way of managing your schedule. So I've shown you about 4 or 5 tools, and I want to show you this. In the US, Nancy Nardin really talks about social media. She says on average, you should spend about $129 per month on your technology stack. Now, I've shown you several. I've shown you one is Loom. I've shown you Pipedrive, right? Pipedrive is like, I think, 25 bucks a month. We talked about that. Loom is like $4 a month, not that expensive. MailerLite you can get for free. DocuSign is about $15 per month. So it's not a lot of money. But my point is, do you have a technology stack? And if you work for a large company, you probably do. So figure out what tools you need to sell more effectively. Now, having said that, now let's shift. So let me pause here. I've told you 2 big things so far. The first thing I told you is that customers are in 3 modes. Fight, still want to grow. Flight, reducing costs, downsizing people, they're scared. And then there's the third mode, freeze. They don't know what to do. They're holding still. Again, these are your 3 types of customers. Second, we talked about making sure you have the right technology, right? Different pieces, whether it's a CRM, whether something like Loom, whether something like DocuSign to sign documents. Again, these are things that you need, right? These are different tools that you need. Now, we know the customers, we have the tools. Now, here's the big question. What is your strategy? So typically, there's only 4 strategies. The first one is gain. Maybe your strategy right now is to get new customers. Might be tough. Or maybe your second strategy is to retain your existing customers. You can see a study that showed a 5% increase in customer retention can improve your profits between 25 and 95%. Why does that make sense? Because think about it. If you're retaining your customers, you're not going out and getting new business, so you're reducing your cost of acquiring new clients. Or your third strategy may be, you know what? We're going to look into our CRM. We're going to go after our existing customers, and we're going to upsell them or cross-sell them, right? Sell them more products. And if you go with that strategy, you can see up to a 30% increase in sales. Or strategy number 4, many people don't think about, is reactivate. Reactivate, these are customers who maybe have not bought from you in the last 6 months to a year. Maybe we can reach out to them. Now, this is important because too often this anxiety we feel during this time, this anxiety that we feel is that because we don't have a sense of direction of what we want to do. If you're a manager right now, a vice president, you're managing a team, what is your strategy? Because this is the strategy you have to communicate to your team. You can say, you know what, given the fact that we're going through this pandemic right now, the strategy we're going to go for is the retain strategy. The retain strategy, and here's what we're going to do. Give them a direction. Many of the companies here in the US are using a retain strategy and a growth strategy at the same time. They're trying to hold on to existing customers and then upsell them and cross-sell them more. So my question to you is, what is your strategy? Pick one, maybe 2, and then we can start building around that, okay? So now, quick summary again. Customers in 3 modes: fight, flight, or just freeze, right? You have your technology in place, so you know how to communicate with them at a distance. You have everything you need, from signing contracts to sending proposals with video. You have everything. Now, step number 3, you have a strategy. What's the strategy? Let's say you want to go with the growth strategy. We're going to go into our existing database. We're going to talk to our existing clients, and we're going to see if we can upsell them or cross-sell them. But keep in mind, we have to be sensitive in this time, right? So next slide. We need to get creative in how we approach a client. Let's get creative. Now we're going to shift into strategy. Let's say we're going to go with a growth strategy. What's our strategy? How do we approach customers so it doesn't come across as we're just trying to sell them and we're not being sensitive? So here's what I'm going to suggest. There's several ways that you can come up with creative ways to help your customers. Now, what I'm going to do is talk about 2 different options, and then I'll add a third one. And then I want you to think about, how would you use it? How could you do it? So let's say that today you decided you're going to go with a growth strategy. My question to you is, one strategy might be customers are trying to hold their money. What if you came up with a buy now, pay later program, a deferment payment? So instead of net 90, right, maybe it's net 4 months, 5 months, whatever it may be. In other words, what can you do so they don't have to pay now and then, again, they can pay later? Now, why is this strategy important? Think about it. There might be a client that you've been trying to get. There might be a client that you've been trying to get. And right now, they're going through their troubles. What if you showed up and says, you know what? We can help you and you don't have to pay for this right now. You can pay for it later because the economy is going to turn around. That's one strategy. Another strategy might be, again, we're trying to reduce their anxiety. They're scared, they're holding their money. So what we want to do is reduce their anxiety. A second strategy might be a buyback program. A buyback program is that you want to protect against the unknown. In other words, if you sell them something and they want to return it or cancel, it's okay. Now, before you say, no, that's not a good strategy, let's see what Hyundai did. Hyundai, when they first started out in the US, they had their issues. They were selling good cars, but keep in mind that Hyundai had a problem. The problem was that people didn't know the brand. And the client pain was that people were worried about maintenance. And then what was Honda's solution? 10-year warranty, 100,000 miles. Their sales went up. See, Hyundai understood that the real pain wasn't the car, wasn't the model, wasn't pricing. It had to do with everything about their anxiety. What if the car breaks down? So how did they reduce that anxiety? They offered a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. That's how they reduced the anxiety. My question to you is, how can you reduce your client's anxiety? But let's go further, because Hyundai's sales went up, but then they started to go down because we had a recession. And in the recession, Hyundai knew that the pain, the client's pain, was the fear of losing their job. It wasn't price again. It wasn't the model of the car. It had everything to do with losing their job. What did Hyundai do? To reduce that anxiety, they created a buyback program. If you lose your job, we'll buy the car back. Brilliant strategy, implemented within 37 days. So again, I need you to start thinking about, what is your client going through right now? What is your potential client going through right now? And what can you do as a company to reduce their anxiety? Because if you can reduce the anxiety, you can get them to take some form of action. Now, what were the results? Here are the results. With the buyback program, in the first year, less than 100 people actually use it. So no, people didn't really use it. When they canceled the program in 2011, less than 350 people actually used it, and their sales almost doubled. What's my point here? The point is that if we can find a way to reduce their anxiety through some creative proposal, and again, you'll have to come up with your own for your industry, come up with a creative proposal of what you can do for them. How can I reduce their anxiety? Is it deferring payments? Is it some type of warranty or buyback program that we can implement? Give this some thought. And then the third one is the buyout, the swap out option. By the way, this is one of my favorites. If you're a technology company, pay attention to this one. This is an important one. So one way to use the buyout option is to pull out your competitors. Let's say your company A is a company that you've been going at, you've been wanting to get in, but your competitor is in that company and you haven't been able to get them to change or switch over. Maybe now's the time to go visit them and say, hey, we have an offer here. We'll take out that software system. Let's say they're using a CRM or some type of SaaS platform. What if we take out that SaaS platform? We'll buy it from you, so to speak, given the cost you've paid for it. Let us put ours in, and then you can see how it works. In other words, we'll sell it back to you at a discount. This is a great way of swapping. It's almost like bartering, just pulling something out to actually sell them something else that you own. So give this some thought. It's a great strategy if you're trying to get a competitor out of an existing company that you've been targeting. So these are just 3 ideas. And again, just 3 ideas. But what if you sat down with your team and came up with these different ideas? Remember, it's all about reducing anxiety. In the swap out, for example, let's say the swap out example number 3, the anxiety could be is that this customer has been wanting to switch out the system, but they're afraid. But if we give them a guarantee, said, look, we'll buy the system from you, pull it out, and then we'll pull ours in. And again, we'll give you a guarantee that if it doesn't work, we'll put the other system right back in. These are the type of creative options companies are looking for in this market. So again, maybe you don't like my 3. That's okay. But what can you do? How creative can you be? I've been working with pool companies. I've been working with technology companies. I've been working with different type of retail companies. And as I sit down with them, we come up with at least 5 to 10 different ideas that they can implement as a strategy. So again, that's part of your homework. Now that you have the strategy, we're going to try to grow. Remember, we had 4 options: grow, retain, right, gain, and then reactivate. Let's say we go with the growth strategy. We go with the growth strategy. That's how we're going to do it. We're going to go back to our existing customers and we're going to upsell them. Then we're going to come up with a creative proposal that they can want to buy. So let's begin to put this all together now as a flow. Now I'm going to add the technology piece, the strategy piece, and these strategies and put it all together so you can see what I'm talking about. Now, here's how a virtual sales flow would look like. First, as a manager, as an owner, as a leader, you make the decision. You say, you know what, we're going to go with a growth strategy. We're going to grow our existing customer base. In this time right now, that's our strategy. So then step number 1, you go into your CRM. That's why a CRM is important. You go into your database, and let's say you pull out your top 100 clients. Pull out your top 100 clients, top 25, top 50, you decide. Now, what if we start contacting, let's say 5 a day, could be 10 a day, whatever number you want. And when we make the first call, it'll probably most likely be telephone, but if you can do video, great. But let's say the first call is just a phone call. You make the phone call, and it's really just to check in on how the customer is doing. This is your client. You've done business with them, and you're just calling in to empathize with them. How's it going? How's the business going? How is this impacting your business? And all you're doing, you're not selling. You're listening, you're taking notes, and you're just trying to connect with the individual. Remember, in this scenario today, if you go in there too hard, you start selling, people are going to pull back. Because again, they might be scared. They might be in the freeze mode. So again, be careful. The first call is, how's everything going? How are you doing? How are you holding up? That's the first call. And then let's say that you wait a week or 2 weeks, you decide the time frame. And by the way, what we're building is what we call here in the US a cadence. A cadence is a rhythm. And so the first step in the rhythm is we call about empathy. How's everything going? Then we set up the second call. The second call is like, let's say 2 weeks later, could be a month later, but 2 weeks later, and you're calling up and say, hey, Murtadha, how's everything going since we last talked? And if you connect with them, and maybe this is a Zoom call, by the way, like this, video, or Microsoft rather, a video call, and now you're talking to Murtadha in this case, and he's telling you, yeah, well, this is changing, this is getting better, we're still struggling with this, we don't know what to do with that, and then you're like, yeah, okay. I said, and then here's where you're going to shift. You're going to say, Murtadha, I said, let me go back to my team based on what you just told me. Now, remember, we're in the second call right now, discuss changes. And at the end of that, I'm going to say something like this. Based on what you've told me, I'd like to go back to my team to see if we can come up with some creative ways to help you. Can we set up a call for next week on Zoom? Is that okay? And he's probably going to say, sure, Victor, I'd be glad to talk to you. And then that third call, which is now the creative proposal, is where you're going to present your creative proposal. That's the rhythm that you can use. Now, here's what I've been seeing, and it's the wrong thing. I've seen people, salespeople, call companies, their clients, and they ask the question, how can I help you? Now, let me tell you why that's the wrong approach. If somebody calls me up and says, Victor, how can I help you? I go, well, I don't know. I'm worried about a bunch of things. I don't know how you can help me. Because when you ask your clients, how can I help you? You put the responsibility on them to think about it. Well, that's not the way you should do it. You should come to the table with a proposal or proposals. In other words, if I were to call up Murtadha and says, hey, Murtadha, how can I help you? He's going to say, I don't know, Victor, we got a lot of things going on. Can we talk later? Right? But if I do this rhythm, by the second call, I say, let me come back to you with some proposals or some creative options. Would you be open to that? He's probably going to say, sure, call me back in a week. We'll talk. Now we get on a Zoom call, and I say in my third call here, creative proposal phase, I say, look, I said, I've been thinking about your problem. I worked with my team. I worked with finance. I worked with the technology team, and I got 2 options I want to present. I want you to look at these. And then now you're coming to the table with options for your client. That's what's powerful. Now, this is just a general flow, but my biggest takeaway for you is don't rush into the sale. Remember, we want to empathize, get to know, see where how our customer is doing, then come back and say, how are things changing? Is anything moving? And again, you're not selling, but then you set up that second call for the third call, which is where you're going to come in with a creative proposal. Because what do people want? They want you to help them make a decision. This is one of my favorite slides. I show this slide a lot because drivers of customer loyalty, look at the numbers here. Customer loyalty, 90% is company or brand. 19% is product or service delivery. 9% is only value to price ratio. It's never really about price, but the buying experience. And how do they define the buying experience? Offer your customer unique and valuable perspectives on the market. Help them navigate choices, right? And provide ongoing advice. That's what the best salespeople do. That's what customers want. They want you to come to them with some options, not just to sell them, to help them, but not just be to say, hey, how can I help you? Present them options. I thought about your problem. Here's what I've come up with. 2 or 3 creative ideas that I think might help you. Can we go through them? And that's a different type of sales flow. You guys with me? Great. All right. So now, one thing I want to talk about, excuse me, is I want to talk about how to set up your virtual office. Most people don't think about this. So let me talk about setting up your virtual office, and then we're going to talk about presentation and closing. Yes, Murtadha.
Hi, Victor. Awesome start, of course. Love the strategies, love the retain and growth. That's something that my organization is looking at. I just wanted to highlight to everybody that's listening that there is a live question and answer. And the way you get to it is that you will find the question mark in the bar. Click on it, and then you can post your question and answers there. And that's how Victor is going to be able to answer your questions later on when he's done with his presentation.
Murtadha, is my speed okay? Too fast, too slow? Good rhythm?
For me, it's okay. But I think you're doing amazing as usual.
Okay, if I'm going too fast, just type in something in Murtadha, let me know if I'm going too fast, but I'll try to be very methodical here. All right, now, so let's go through the review. And I'm only reviewing it because I know if I repeat it, you'll remember it. Customers are in 3 modes, right? Fight, flight, or freeze. You know those 3 already. You have your technology in place. Excellent. Now to communicate long distance, you can get contracts signed, the whole bit. Now, after that, we talked about you got 4 strategies: gain, retain, grow, reactivate. Pick 1 or 2. Let's say you pick grow. Now, instead of arriving at the client with, how can I help you? You're going to come up with some creative proposals. We talked about 3 of them. You can probably come up with more that you're going to offer. After that, you now have this sales flow we already talked about. And again, this is something that you can work. By the way, the icons in blue are the pieces of technology that you would use. So for example, I have VE, video email. That is the Loom product, right? Where you can attach a video. VC is video conference like Microsoft, or I use Zoom. So these are pieces of technology that you can use. And obviously you have to have a CRM. And I talked about the calendar, which is Calendly. Again, this is stuff that you can use. Okay, very simple to use. Now, let's switch over to your virtual office, because now we really have to think about this. We really have to think about how we look on screen, right? People pay attention to everything. So let's go through what I have in my office here and how I make calls. In the last month, I can share this with you. In the last month, I have done more business online like this than I've ever done before. So my business has shot up, and I'm using the technology. I want to share with you what I have and what I use so you can look good, okay? And so the first thing I'm going to suggest is you can use the computer microphone. I like this tool. It's really easy. The Yeti microphone, you plug it right into your computer. And if just to prove that I'm using it, there it is, right there. That's what I'm using. By the way, one of the things I like about this Yeti is that what they call the wave of how it receives information is like this right now. You can actually program your wave to be all around. Like if I want to do a conference call, I would change the setting, and then it would listen in all around the microphone. But for this conversation, I have the wave, I'll just call it that, the sound wave, only receiving this information. Why? Because any noise that happens in the background, the microphone won't pick it up. So if you have kids at home, you have a dog like I do, that in the background, if they're making noise, this actually blocks out some of that noise. So it's a great investment, okay? So think about that. Now, also, I'm using this camera on my iMac. So I got an iMac right now, which has a good camera, but this one has more high definition, and this tool has a little application where you can change the colors and you can change the white balance, and you can really adjust the colors so you can look good, right? So you can really adjust the colors as opposed to being default. So I use this camera, I love it. Now, right behind the camera, I have this light right here. And so many of you probably seen ring lights or probably use a ring light, but what it does, a ring light lights you up all around like this. Sometimes people put a light here and you can see this part of their face, but then this part's dark. So by using a ring light, you get an even distribution of light and you just look better. And if you don't want to invest in that, then maybe you can get something small like that, where you can put it right over the webcam, and it's only like $15. My point is, light matters. Don't ever put the light behind you. Like, I see people with the windows behind them. The problem is that messes with the camera. You always want the light source to be in front of you. So for example, if there's a window there, I want to face the window and then put the camera this way, because I always get better lighting. Okay, simple tips. How about this one? Now this is an important one. This is an important one. I've seen this one too many times. When you talk to a camera, don't put the camera low. Have you ever talked to somebody on the webcam and on a conference call, and the camera's low, and then you're looking up at their face, right? You're looking up right up their nose, right? You're just, So don't ever do that. The camera, as a tip, should be eye level, right? So on this iMac, I have a riser, just a stand. This one costs like $30, $30. It's a stand, so the camera could be higher. The camera should always be eye level or a little bit above. Now, the women get this. Women understand this, because women, when they take pictures, they never take pictures low, right, ladies? They always take the picture from where? High, because they know it makes them look better, makes them look younger. And if you turn sideways, you lose 10 pounds. See, it's all about positioning, right? And let's talk about the background, because I think the background is something I need to talk about. I was on a conference call, on webinar with Gartner. That was the title at the bottom, Remote Work Now and Beyond. I wanted to see what they were talking about. But I was so distracted by all these backgrounds. The guy on the upper left has the fan, going over his head. So when he was talking, the thing was spinning, and it looked like he had a helicopter head. The other second lady looked like she was trapped upstairs in the attic. The guy over to the right, upper right, I'm distracted. I'm looking at those curtains. I said, are those shower curtains in the background? The guy at the bottom left, he looks like he doesn't want to be found. The lady in the middle, I like hers the best. And then the one on the right was listening to Metallica and has the Doors. It's very distracting. And then Murtadha is now showing you that with this feature, Microsoft or Zoom, you can create a virtual background. I wouldn't use that one, but he's just trying to prove a point that you can use different virtual backgrounds. So that's another option. Okay, so you can use, in fact, you can upload your, see that's party time with Murtadha down there. And so you can use different backgrounds, or you can do something like this. You can buy a step and repeat. A step and repeat is a stand where you just put the logos there, and then you can put it behind. They have some smaller ones that you can set up on your desk, so it just creates a nice background. But I'm glad Murtadha highlighted his background, because what I would recommend, I think is really simple to use. If you don't have this, you can just upload your company graphic, put it on a blank, let's say it's pure black, put the logo up or whatever color you like, and then you can use that as your virtual background. So you always have your brand right here or right here. By the way, very simple things, but at the end of the day, it shows that you're a professional. The last thing you want is people looking in the background and being distracted and not paying attention to you. And then I got to remind everybody, you got to have enough internet speed, right? Or else you're just going to get a very bad image. And I know that depending on what country you're in, this might be difficult. But here's a rule of thumb. If you look at this number right here, this is probably one of the most important numbers, the upload speed. Upload into the cloud. Remember, I'm recording a video. That video has to go up into the cloud, then down to you. So your upload is just as important as download. Most of us only think about downloads because we say, let's go to netflix.com. Okay, that's not a lot of information. So you don't need a lot of upload. You need a lot of download to watch movies. So in your case, you're going to need both. But pay attention to the upload speed. Typically, if your upload speed is above 10, you're going to do well. 20, 30 is even better, okay? So keep that in mind. Now, so those are the tools, and you guys can ask me about this later on. But again, I just want you to look professional. You don't want anything in the background that's distracting. Look like a pro, okay? Now, let's talk about connecting, and then now let's talk about selling and positioning. And again, we want to do it in a gentle way. So here's our new challenge. Our new challenge here is that broadcasting means you can when you're doing face-to-face, you can see the person's voice, you can see, you can see them full body, and you can understand the context. The context would be like the office you're in. But now we're in what I call frame casting mode, where people only see this right here. This is all they see. Like you can't see my full body language. You can't see from here on down. For all you know, I have some shorts and sandals on. I don't, but you get the idea. So this is what we're dealing with. So we really need to pay attention to our environment. Albert Moravian came up with this rule of liking, of whether people that like you or not. He says 55% of whether I like you or not is visual. Now, this is interesting. 55% of whether I like you or not is what I see, your body language, maybe your facial expressions. It's all visual. 38% is voice. By that I mean tone, speed, how I'm talking. And then the last part, verbiage, only 7% is the actual content. Now this is amazing, because we do judge people by how they look, body language, and all these things. You ever meet somebody? You ever meet somebody for the first time and you go, within like 5 seconds, 10 seconds, you're like, I don't like that person. We've all had that experience, right? And that's because your brain at a subconscious level picked up something in their body language that you just didn't like, or maybe something in their voice that you just didn't like. So keep this in mind. Here's how it plays into what we're talking about. When we talk about trying to get people to like us through video, the new thing you're going to have to develop is you're going to have to learn to listen with your eyes. That's right, I said it. You have to learn to listen with your eyes. What does that mean? I want you to think about, as you're reading this list, I want you to think about this. You need to be able to talk to the customer about what you're going to talk about, your creative proposals. But there's another part of your brain that should be monitoring, watching for subtle things. For example, if the eyes go up like this to the left, that person's making it up. It's not true. When they go up to the right, that's how we think about things. You ask a question, when was the last time you did this? You go, they look up to the right every time. When the person has their hand on the chin, they're thinking, they're with you, right? Now, if they put their hand over their mouth, these are simple tips, like this. You ever see people do this? That means they want to say something, but they're holding back. They're holding back. So when you see this one, you should stop and ask a question, or let them talk. As soon as you see this, you've got to stop, ask a question, okay? So watch for that. When somebody's looking down at their desk, they're not paying attention. They're not buying. They're uncomfortable. I've seen people move things around when they're talking to me, right? And that means you're not engaging. So if people are moving things around, like, and they're doing that, that means obviously they're not engaged. What you're saying is not important to them. Now, when somebody leans back, it doesn't mean that they're disengaged, that they're not interested. Sometimes people lean back because they want to think. Sometimes people lean back and cross their arms because that's how they think. If they lean in, you know that they're interested. So just watch for that. This is interesting. When you ask somebody a tough question, a challenging question, watch their eyes. If you ask them a tough question and they look away and then they come back, yeah, you should really listen to what that answer is, because in many cases it's probably not the right answer. So really pay attention to people, how people respond to what you ask. Obviously, if they look away when they're answering, be careful how you do it too. When a customer asks you a question, too often I see this, salespeople do this. Yeah, we can do that. And as soon as you go, yeah, we can do that, the customer's going to go, I don't believe him. But if you ask me a question, I said, of course we can do that. We do that. Let me give you a couple of examples. And then you got to make sure you're looking at the camera. The last one, really pay attention to this. This is okay. Go on. I like what you're saying. I'm listening. But if somebody does this, yeah, that means move on. You're going too slow. Like, yeah. If they close their eyes, they close their eyes, like, that means they don't even want to look at you. That means whatever you're doing is irritating them. So these are just a few things that you need to be aware of, that you need to listen with your eyes to watch for when you're having these conversations via video. On voice, the second part, watch your uhs and your ums. I hear that a lot. Or talking too fast. That's my problem, right? It's harder via video because, for example, here in the US, if I go to New York, I go to Miami, right? People talk very fast. So it's okay to talk fast. Now I live in Georgia. People talk really slow here, right? And so I have to learn to adjust my speed to the person I'm talking to. Now, right now, we're just doing a webinar, so I'm not interacting with you. But if I was interacting with you one-on-one, I would match your speed. I would go whatever velocity you're going, I would match the speed. Use their phrases. Some people like to use certain words to describe things or certain phrases. Use them because, again, it creates a synchronicity. It connects. And last part, when you're asking questions, look for tone. When you ask somebody a question and they say, yeah, but you don't hear it in the voice, that means, again, they're not aligned. So these are the new skills we have to learn. We have to learn how to engage people online. We have to learn how to listen more, not only with our ears, but with our eyes, and then be able to ask questions, engage the customer, ask questions, show the customer something, and again, find ways to keep the conversation going. Now, here's a non-buying signal. So now let's say you're having a conversation, you're moving towards your close. You've just made a creative proposal. You just put the creative proposal, and they're listening to your proposal, and they look like that. And if they don't ask questions, that's a problem. If they ask the wrong questions, you ever talk to somebody and they ask you something that has nothing to do with what you were just talking about? That's not a good sign. And when you finish the conversation, like, hey, here's our proposal. This is what we'd like to work with you on. What are your thoughts on this? And if the customer says, okay, well, let me think about it, or if they don't have any questions, what do? What do you say? Now we're stuck, right? So now we're stuck. So let me unstick you. In other words, let me show you that if you have a customer, one of the things that is not giving you the right signals, we need to know. I got you on this video call. You and I, you're my potential client. You're a prospect. I have you on the call. I've gone through all this work to set up the meeting. I've gone through all that time to, get to know you, get to know your company, what the changes are. We're having this conversation. I've put a proposal in front of you. I don't want to get off this conference call without knowing whether it's this or this. I need to know. That's my philosophy, right? And so when somebody doesn't have any questions, I'm going to show you two scripts. The first one is the no question script. So I can say, Jane, do you have any questions? Based on what I've just shown you with our creative proposal, do you have any questions? She says, no, I don't have any questions. Then you say, well, I always turn it around and say, well, can I ask you a question? And every time they go, sure, what's your question, Victor? I said, when I finish with a presentation, this is what I say, and there are no questions, it's either because I've explained it so well that you just need to think about it, or you're simply not interested. Which one is it? Now, notice what I'm forcing here. I'm forcing an option. You're interested, right? But you just need to think about it, or you're simply not interested. Which is it? Now, this is a nice way of saying, which way are we going? Because too often we don't want to ask these questions because maybe we don't want to know the answer. I like to know the answer because I want to qualify people quickly. By qualify, I mean, if you're not going to buy, I need to know so I can move on to the next customer. I'm not offended. I just need to know. So when I ask a customer, look, when I finish and there are no questions, it's usually because I've explained it so well that you just need to think about it, or you're simply not interested, right? Two options. And people, once you give people options, they choose one or the other, and you need to do this. So let's go with the first option. Let's say they say, let me think about it, Victor. Well, you know what? I'm interested. I just need to think about it. So they say, no, I'm interested. I just need to think about it. Here's what you're going to say. Well, I'm glad you're interested, Jane. With past clients, I've learned three things. Now, let me just stop here. This script is so effective, is so good, that if you use it, you will see the difference. And as opposed to just letting somebody say, let me think about it, and we'll get back to you in a week. No, you want your answer there. Here's how I do this. I'm going to funnel, again, using this script, I'm going to funnel them towards an answer. Here's what I would then say. I'm glad you're interested. So they just told me, I'm interested, I just need to think about it. Well, I'm glad you're interested. With past clients, it's been my experience that there's three reasons that they're not sure, that they have to think about it. The first one is maybe you don't see our product or our service as a fit, the first F, as a fit for your company. Is that it? Now, the person has to answer yes or no. So they go, no, it's a fit. It's what we're looking for. Well, if we are a fit, then maybe there's some features, functionality, something that we're not offering that you want. Is there something missing? And now they have to tell me, is there something missing? Now notice what I'm doing. I'm trying to figure out, is it us as a company? Is it my product? The functionality or the service I offer, some feature that we don't have in our service. And they're going to say, no, it's not that. Well, then I always say, well, Jane, if we are a fit, notice it's a positive language statement. If we are a fit and the product has everything you need, then I have to assume that it's a matter of finance. Is that it? And now you get to the truth of it in many cases. Yeah, I said, right now, we're just not ready to spend money. And again, if you have your plan in place, we can, buy now, pay later, we can figure that out. But what you're doing is you're trying to figure out if they're saying, let me think about it, this is the script you use. Now, there is a fourth F. There's fit, feature or functionality, and then there's finance. But what if they say, no, you are a fit. No, it has the features. That's not the money. We have the money. I just need to think about it. That means the fourth F exists, and that is they're afraid, fear. Something in your presentation didn't make them feel better. Something in your presentation did not reduce that anxiety. So you'd have to go back and look at your presentation. When I work with companies, we go through the presentation to figure out where are the points that the customer might be afraid. And then we reshuffle, redo, rescript the presentations. So when they get to this point, the client's more likely to say yes than no. So that's the let me think about it script. Again, you're talking via video. Customer says, I'm interested, let me think about it. This is a powerful script. Now, what if they just simply say, I'm not interested? Remember, there was, I'm interested, let me think about it, or there's not interested, right? So let's just go with they're not interested. Not interested. Let's go to that one, and then we're going to finish up. On the non-interested piece, here's where you're going to stop selling. Yes, you heard me say that correctly. Here's where you're going to stop selling. That's it. And you're going to say to Jane, Jane says, I would say that this isn't for me. We're just not interested. And then this is where you say, Jane, can I ask you a question? I said, and this is where you just, I appreciate your honesty. I don't want to sell you anything right now. I just want to stop. And I just want to understand, and you need to make it clear to the client, you're not trying to sell them. I said, is it that the product isn't a fit? Is it that it doesn't have the features, or is it the finance? It's almost the same script, right? But in this case, the client has said, I'm not interested. Once a client verbalizes, I'm not interested, you're not going to sell them. You're not going to sell them. The old school style of selling, like, yeah, you can convince them. No, it doesn't work. Once the customer verbalizes, I'm not interested, the chances of you closing the deal or advancing it, it's not going to happen. Now, again, keep in mind, when I say closing the deal, it doesn't have to be a financial deal. Let's say you're in HR, which many of you are, and let's say you're talking to your manager. And let's say you're talking to your manager about getting a bigger budget for X project. And then once you finish your presentation and your manager says, well, let me think about it. At that point, you adjust the script. Manager says, let me think about it. And you say to the manager, say, Mr. Manager, Senior VP, Executive, CEO. I said, when you say, let me think about it, when I hear that, it usually means one of three things. One, you don't think this new product we want to implement as part of HR is a fit for our company. Is that it? Now they have to answer. Or second, no, it's a fit. I can see how this would work within our department or our division. Part two, then you say, well, if it is a fit, is there some functionality that you want that it's not included in this product? Now, the manager, the VP, the executive, CEO has to go, no, it has everything I think we're looking for, so I think we're good. So then, if it is a fit, it has the features we want, and it's something we need, then I assume that this is a financial/budget issue. Is that it? See how you do that? You do it with your managers as well. And if you're married, you can do the same thing, but that's another topic. Now, let me wrap this one up. You stop selling, and what you want to find out is was it the fit? Was it the features? Was it the finance? Now, what you're trying to do here is gather information about why the customer wasn't interested. You're going to come up with one of two options. One, it wasn't the right target client. But again, that's information that we can use. Number two, reason you want to know this is that this customer is going to give you feedback, and maybe that feedback will help you in your next presentation. So rejection is a positive in this case, because when you get rejected and you can find out why you got rejected, then you can use that to get better at your presentation, right? Now, so again, think about that. Rejection is positive. Don't look at it as a negative. It makes you better for your next presentation. And with that said, here's a summary of what we talked about. No touch selling is the new next. Some people say the new normal. I say, no, it's the new next. It's what we're going to next. Now we're going to start selling remotely. Tools, invest in your technology. 4 strategies: gain, retain, grow, reactivate. What are you doing? And again, the important part there is by choosing a strategy and you communicate that strategy to your team, everybody gets it. Everybody knows that we have a direction. It's almost like there's north, let's go north. Design your virtual space, very important. And again, I call it frame casting, but again, watch for the face, watch body language, really learn to listen with your eyes. I know you understand the ear part, but really listen with your eyes. And ask for commitment. By that I mean is when you're done with the presentation, one of the things I train companies on is, what are you asking for at the end of that presentation? I always call it, what is the ask? What are you going to ask for and how are you going to ask for it? Because if you begin to develop a presentation with what you're going to ask for at the end, then you work backwards to design a presentation that will lead you to what you want. So always figure out, what am I going to ask for? How am I going to ask for it? Now I need to build a presentation that lands me on that. And that is it, Murtadha. I will hand it over to you.
Thank you very much. Very interesting. Now, I work for one of the Islamic banks in the country, and we've been looking at how we can now onboard more customers. And I just love your presentations. They always shed light on things that, you miss, the small little bits, the little movements, how people, bop their heads and move around and talk. Amazing. There are a couple of questions that have been published. Victor, how about we take the questions first? Yeah.
Let's do it.
So Ahmed, let's go to the published question. We'll start off with the last one that came in, and this is from Salim. He's saying that this is an excellent cognitive learning. What about the socio-emotional learning?
So, by the way, can you see me now? I put it on full screen.
Full
Okay.
clear. Yeah.
So on the socio-emotional learning. So repeat the question one more time.
So the question is this: it's an excellent cognitive learning. What about the socio-emotional learnings?
If you go back to the sales flow I described, the social emotional learning was in that first phase, the empathy part. What's going on with the customer? That's where we connect emotionally with the customer. That's where we empathize with their pain. We're not selling. That's where you touch it. So that's where some of the emotional intelligence, the EQ stuff comes in, right? How do we connect with people and let them know that we're not here to sell, we're just trying to understand? I think if you connect with them on the first phase, that's the emotional connection. I feel what you're going through. When we went to the second one, we talked about, remember the second phase of the flow was, how are things changing since we last talked 2 weeks ago? And they're thinking, wow, Victor really cares. The second time he's called me, he wants to know what's changed. So notice I'm always connecting at an emotional level. And when I take them to the third phase, which is the creative proposal phase, remember what I'm also doing. They're emotionally stuck. What I am bringing to the table is a proposal to help them get unstuck. So to your point, which is a great question, I gave you the cognitive structure, but if you really zoom in, it is the human piece. We all know this, right? It's the human piece, those small interactions that really need to pay attention to. So yeah, there's the empathy. What are the changes? And here's some proposals to help you out of this hole.
All right, you were talking about body movements, and I've been shaking my head listening to you. Now I'm wondering if I'm doing it too fast or too slow.
Yeah. You start watching just like, yeah. Because it's funny because, by the way, that fast head movement is important. I would challenge everybody on this webinar. The next time you get on a webinar, just make it a mental note. Let me, and just play a game with yourself. How many gestures can I pick up? Because, so Murtadha, before we started the webinar, I see a guitar in the background, to which I say, hey, you play guitar? And he says, yes, I do, right? And so that's good and bad. One, from a connecting standpoint, it's good. But two, if you're trying to sell me, I'm distracted by what's in your background, right? But from an emotional connection, it's good. So be aware of that.
Yeah, for sure. The next question is if you can give an example of a buyout strategy.
A buyout strategy, not
the buyback strategy.
So not buy back, buy out.
Yeah, buyout.
Okay. I'll give you a perfect example. So I worked for a telecommunications company years ago as an engineer, right? We had a customer, and to make it a long story short, the customer has spent about $1 million on this wireless infrastructure. The problem was that after a certain capacity, it started having problems. But the problem was he spent most of his money out of his, I think he had $1 million budget. He spent like $700,000 on that system. So here's what I did. I wanted to get my competitor out. So here's what I did. I approached the customer, and by the way, the customer was in Panama. And so I approached the customer. I said, look, you spent, let's say, $700,000 on that system. I said, here's what I want to do. I want to buy it from you. And I bought it at 50%, let's say $350,000. It says, I will pull the system out. On top of that, what I'll do is I'll replace it with my system at, let's say, a 30 or 40% discount. And then we worked out a payment plan. And so what I then did is I took that I paid $350,000, I got equipment. What I then did is I took that product and sold it into another market. So in other words, I had a friend who was working in, let's say in Europe. I said, hey, I got this equipment that's compatible, standards. He says, can I sell it into a secondary market? So I actually sold that. And I think I sold it for like $200,000. So I lost about $150,000. But the real value came in that this new customer was paying me what? Every month. And my return on investment, my break-even point, I think was like 18 months was break-even point. And then after that, but also realized that not only did I get my money back eventually, but now I had a customer who I can upsell and cross-sell to.
Perfect. All right, so the next one is, do you think giving a customer more than an option dilutes his or her decision?
Giving them more, no, you're helping them. Because I mean, really think about it. The example I like to use is that we're confused. I'm saying clients, customers are confused. One of the things I talked about, I may have talked about it at the Oshrm conference, maybe in the workshop. I talked about today customers have so many options that most people think, well, they don't need salespeople because they have the internet and there's options all over the place. Well, that makes it worse. I think salespeople, and again, we're all in sales, are in a better position to guide them because sometimes there's so many options. They're looking to you to suggest something. Like, notice what I did at the beginning of the presentation. Notice what I did to you. Let's psychoanalyze what I did to you. First of all, I didn't just give you technology. I showed you the full landscape. Remember the one with all the apps?
Yes.
And you're like, if I were to give you that and say, hey, choose one, you'd be like, I can't choose. But then what I did is I funneled it down to 5 options. And I kept saying, now you don't have to use this. You may have your own CRM. Now you don't have to use this. But what I'm doing is I'm bringing value by offering something, by curating and offering. So you don't dilute it. In other words, the customer's relieved that you're bringing options, because when there's too many options, they don't make a buying decision. And if I can just give you one visual example to prove this point, I wanted to buy a drone, like a drone, fly drone. This is like a year ago, something like that. And I did all the research online and I narrowed it down to 3 drones. And so I got it, 3 drones. And I knew they were available at Best Buy. That's an electronics store here. And I said, let me go. I went there and sure enough, there were the 3 drones, right? And in front of them was a little card explaining each of them, right? Now, by the way, as I'm presenting to you, have you noticed how much I use gestures? You should have noticed this because this is how you keep people engaged. Once in a while, you throw in a story. So I'm throwing in a story just to keep you engaged, not just to give you the data. Anyway, back to my story. So I go in there. This big guy comes over. He's like 6'8", really tall. Comes in, can I help you? And I go, yeah, I'm thinking about buying a drone. By the way, I got $1,200 ready to spend on my credit card. My credit card is jumping out of my pocket. It wants to be spent. So he says, well, okay. I said, give me a moment to think about it. He says, call me if you need me. And I said, sure enough. So then I got it down to 2 drones. And then I called the guy over. I said, hey, it's down to these 2 drones. Which one should I buy? Why is one better than the other? He actually started reading the little cards in front of the drone. And I go, I said, I had to be polite because he's much taller than me. Right? I said, yeah, I read that, but why is one better than the other? Now remember, I'm at a point where I'm ready to make a decision. I'm ready to spend money. I just need to know which one's better. He just didn't have an answer. And then I asked him, I said, do you have a drone? He goes, no. I said, were you trained on the drones? He goes, no. And so now it was an awkward moment. And I remember I walked out of the store, no decision. My credit card's still in my pocket. And all he had to do was positioned himself as an expert, said, well, let me recommend, based on what you've told me, Victor, I would choose this one over that one. Here's why. That's what customers want. Don't be afraid of that.
I would have gone for the Mavic Air. That's what I went for.
I did get a Mavic Pro. Yeah, I did. I got the Mavic, the gray one. Yeah, it's a great job.
All right, the next question, Victor, is what about the risk of the client thinking that you're bugging them when you insist for a straight decision or answer for a purchase?
At the end. So
At the
let's go. Okay, so let's go through the flow. So that's usually a question that comes out of fear. That question is fear-based. So whoever gave me that question, listen to me. I'm talking to you right now. So the thing is, you're afraid is how you might come across as a salesperson. And too often what we have in our head about salespeople is that they're always trying to close us. They're always trying to get a deal. They're always trying to jam something down our throats. If that's what you think selling is, then that's the wrong model to have in your head. If you're genuinely trying to help somebody, or you're generally trying to help a company, or you're generally trying to help your own department grow, then you're not selling, you're caring. Big difference. So I never sell, I share. That's the difference. I never sell, I share. And so when I call the first time to see how you're doing, I really do care how you're doing. When I call back to see what's changed, I'm really listening to you because I want to understand. I'm looking for a way to try to help you. I'm not looking for a way to sell you. I'm looking for a way to try to help you. If I can find something that I have to help you, then I'm going to try to sell that. But it's out of help. You got to come from there, right? It's got to be because you want to help them. So when you get to the part about the presentation and the person says, I'm not interested, notice what I said, stop selling. They just told you, I'm not interested. Stop selling because I value the relationship more than the actual sale. Now, if they say I have to think about it, well, let's walk through that one. I have to think about it. You may think I'm being pushy. No, I'm helping them clarify their thinking. Because remember, you as a salesperson, you've earned the right. Let me just say that again. You've earned the right to ask that question. Why? Because keep in mind, I had to call you, connect with you, set up the first meeting, set up the second meeting, and now we're at the third meeting. I have invested a lot of time and energy, my company's time and energy up to this point, and I gave you what I consider as a great presentation. I just need to know if you're not interested, now would be a good time to tell me, and I'll stop selling. But if you said you need to think about it, well, let me help you think about it. Let's walk through. And that's when I would go through the three. And if they get to the end, they still say, no, I just really need to think about it. That's great. Can I call you back in a week? But if somebody tells me they still need to think about it after going through those three things, I know they're more likely not going to buy. So I would deprioritize that client as a follow-up, and I move on to the next one. That's selling. Now, again, when you're doing this with your managers, the worst thing to do is Murtadha, is to walk out of a meeting and the person says, let me think about it. And you say, okay, when should I get back to you? And the person said, why don't you give me a call next week? Okay, I'll give you a call next week. Boom, you give them a call next week. Can't get a hold of them. Leave a voicemail, leave 2 voicemails, send a couple emails. Boom, a month goes by. And then that client's forgotten about you and you're still holding on to that client. So keep in mind that the alternative is worse, leaving there not knowing. That's the worst thing to do.
Let me ask you this, and this is just going to be in addition to what to this flow that you've given. Now,
Sure.
If I've gotten an answer that's no, right? I'm not interested, and no, I don't want it. How can I still keep him engaged to maybe approach him down the line?
Be respectful. When somebody says, no, I'm not interested, beautiful. Hey, my job is to share what I have. So I was hoping you were interested in this, but I understand, clearly understand. In fact, I'm going to give you a call next week. Can I take you out for a cup of coffee? Because we still need to get together for a cup of coffee, right? You know what I mean? We keep it friendly. We don't need to make it antagonistic. I think we're missing that, Murtadha. It's like sometimes we think it's about us versus them. It's not. It's about, if you really mean relationship, then this is a relationship. If you said no to me, I'm not going to walk around, I'm so mad at you, I'm not talking to you anymore. That's not selling. It's like, that's great. Because I know that if I maintain the relationship, I can come back again. Now, but notice that, Murtadha, if you said no, I'm not interested, and I said, all right, just thought you might be. By the way, are you available for lunch next week? No, we're not talking sales. We're just us getting together. He says, yeah, let's go shisha, whatever it may be. Now, that was a pleasant experience if done the right way. So when I call you again, you're not going to be like, oh no, it's Victor again. You're going to be like, oh yeah, last time I talked to Victor, we went out shisha. It was, so it's finding your way of making it comfortable.
Perfect. All right, we'll take two more, actually three more questions. The last one is something that I'm very interested in as well.
Oh, that's scaring me already. I'm scared.
Farah has asked how can he establish an online sales plan or strategy?
How can you establish an online plan or strategy?
Sales plan, online sales plan.
An online sales plan. Can you ask for clarification? Are we talking about you're managing sales team? Because the online, I gave you a structure, that virtual sales flow. That, are you talking about that? Because that's kind of a plan of attack. That's a very tactical plan, right?
Let's see if Tariq responds back. Tariq, I'm just typing you something. So if you can clarify, that will be awesome, and we'll come back to your question. The next one is it necessary to learn psychology of selling?
Is it necessary? No. I mean, by the way, everything helps, right? But if you say, is it conditional, like you have to learn this to understand this? No, I think the best way to study sales is to study how you buy. I mean, really think about that for a moment. If you study how you buy and how you like to be sold to, then that's the way you should sell. You shouldn't sell the way Victor sells. You shouldn't sell the way Murtadha sells. You should sell the way you sell. And I've learned that that's the most effective thing. So here's what you can do at practices. Be mindful, right? You hear that word a lot. Be mindful. Next time you're in a transaction, somebody trying to sell you something, ask yourself, how do you feel about this? When salespeople try to sell me, which is, I'm conflicted, right? Because when salespeople try to sell me, on one side, I'm a consumer, but on the other side, I'm a trainer. So I'm always watching what they're doing and see if they're doing it right. So just keep in mind how you like to be sold to, and maybe that's how you can sell more effectively as well. You'll start seeing what you like and what you don't like, and then that'll begin to develop your sales style.
All right, so Tariq has answered back. He said you've already answered it in the sales flow. So we've got the answer for that, which was your sales flow. Ahmed Yahyai is asking, are there any recommended books about selling?
No, I'm selfish about this. So here's my 1 minute sales pitch. You should join my Sales Velocity Academy, because in there I have like 50 courses with over, I don't know, 500 videos on different aspects of selling. And that really is the best of the best when it comes to, if you don't like reading, I think that's one to read, to check it out. So just go to Sales Velocity Academy. And if you type in 50OFF, 50OFF, 50% off, you get 50% off. Just because I love
All right,
it.
Victor, the final question. And
Okay.
this is the one that's on everybody's mind, I think. I mean, from my perspective, right, as I said, we're working for a bank. Our main touch point was always our branches. Well, you know, online, social media, and everything was there, but where we really felt the customer was branches, and that has disappeared. So the way we sell now has changed as well, of course. That's one of the reasons.
To be clear, you said brunches, like midday.
Branches, as in bank branches, different outlets in different places that we had, right?
Okay.
So
Right.
those were our main touch points, and they're not anymore. Our main touch point now is our social media handles, our Instagram pages, you know, all of those things. The question is, what do you think the world will be like after this pandemic?
We're not going to go back to where we used to. So many things have changed. Yesterday, I did a webinar for a pool company, like pools, swimming, and their business is taking off. Why? Because people's mindset has shifted from, let me go on a vacation, to what we call a staycation. Staycation means you stay at home. And so now people are shoveling more money into their house to build pools. So that's already changed. In engineering, when I was taking engineering courses, I took a metallurgy materials course, right? And just bear with me, as the good visual. And by the way, notice I'm about to use a visual in this presentation just to keep your attention. Okay, back to my presentation. And so if you ever take Murtadha, you ever taken a hanger, a wire hanger, and you bend it, right?
Yeah.
And our teacher said, bend the hanger. So we got a little hanger, we bent the hanger, right? He says, now try to put it back the way it was. And you always have that little bump in the middle, right? What happens is when you bend it at that point, the actual bonds become stronger, which is why you can't bend it back. So we have now bent the hanger, and that little bump has created a stronger way of us selling, which means remote selling, no touch selling, will be more accepted than ever before. In other words, companies are going to start questioning, well, why do you need to get on the plane? just get on a video call with them. Why do you need to fly? You don't need to do that. So we may see a reduction and an acceptance of this type of medium. I think what's also interesting, my wife pointed this out to me and I thought it was interesting, you know, in the old days when somebody was sick and they still came in, you're like, that's a real trooper, right? That's a person who's just committed to the company. Now, if you come in sick, people are going to go, why are you here? You know what I mean? So that's going to shift. But I think the biggest shift, look, it was Warren Buffett that says, when the tide goes out, you can see who was swimming naked, right? Meaning they weren't financially stable, right? I think what's happening is that the tide went out and you see who was swimming technically naked. The people who didn't understand technologies. There was a study that said that today in the US, 50% of the workforce are boomers, people over 50. The other 50% are millennials. And by 2030, 10 years, 75% will be millennials, 25% boomers. Now, here's the thing is, millennials, they were born with a phone and an iPad in their hand. They're not afraid of technology. It's the people who have resisted technology that now find themselves in a position that, oh, I have to learn this. Millennials are going, yeah, I know that, I know that, I know that. And so I think now we're going to see a shift into a remote type of scenario, whether it's communication, having team meetings, we can now do it virtually. And I think budgets are going to change. And I think the most fascinating thing I'm dying to see, wanting to see is that they're going to do studies 5 years from now, looking back at this to really see the impact of all this. But I think companies now, right now, are discovering ways to lean more on technology, to be more efficient now that they don't have the bodies. They're figuring it out. And so you're seeing this adjustment. So our biggest concern here in the US, at least mine is that even if we turn on the switch tomorrow, says everybody goes back to work. Here in Georgia, the switch is turned on Friday. You know, so we're going to go back. Yeah. And so the problem is all these people are not going to be hired back because other companies have become more efficient and figured out how to streamline their workflow. So that'll be interesting to see what happens. So it's very interesting here in the US. So, but it's only certain cities that are having problems. New York is having problems. California's having problems. Florida's having problems. But a lot of other states are not having that many. So even though our death count is really high, it's more in pockets than anything else.
Okay, I hope it stops very soon for all of us. On a personal note for me, and I think for a lot of people in the team, so I had marketing and comms. Working from home has increased our productivity a lot more. Yeah. And if given the option, I would actually want to do working from home rather than going back to the office. And I agree with you.
I think that's a great point, that people are finding out that you can be efficient. Again, because remember, there was that negative stigma, right? Oh, you're working from home? Really? Are you by the pool? Right? There's always that sarcasm, where today they're going to be like, yeah, that's normal. So that, I think, is the new normal, or the new next, is that working from home is going to be acceptable.
All right, great. Victor, thank you for the amazing presentation. Thank you for being with us. Our thoughts and prayers are with you guys in the US, and we hope that this stops very soon and we can all go back to the new normal, whatever that new normal is. I love the fact that you actually mentioned in one of your stories, in the old days. You make it sound like it was in the old days now. Once again, guys, Victor was with us today, and this was an amazing session. Hopefully, Victor, as soon as this is over, we see you live and in person back in Muscat.
I love Oman. I love my Omani brothers and sisters, man. So thank you.
Thanks. All right, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. So this was our other webinar. There's a lot more coming up. Stay tuned to Oshrm's social media pages to stay up to date. And we will have amazing sessions coming during the next couple of weeks. Thanks, Victor. Have a good day. See you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.